This is Extend the Drive Best Ball Live. I'm Sean Mitchell, your host. So I've coined this week the Eliminator Week. We had a show on Tuesday with Nick Buckledge. We did our first Eliminator of the week. Speaking of Nick, getting in there right at the right time. Welcome in. Appreciate everybody joining. Have another special guest today. If you are familiar with the FanSpeak Network, this guy really needs no introduction. But if you're not familiar with his credentials, 13 finals teams in 2024 had a fourth place finish in the big board for a smooth $50,000. Let's welcome my guest, Steve SCHOUP from FanSpeak Network. How's it going, Steve?
Going well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you being here, man. So right off the bat, a lot of good Mordens in the chat. Omega's in here. Nick's in here. Win the Flex. Pepper's in here. What's up, brother? How's your evening? Hey, good to see you all. Glad you guys are joining us. Got a special show. Steve, I know this. You put out your rankings on the FanSpeak Network not too long ago here for the Eliminator. So for one, how many Eliminators are you in? How many have you done? And how did you finish in that last year? Did you have a good run?
Yeah, so let me start last year because obviously there's a different format. I entered 22. I entered 22 eliminators and I did get one through to the finals. So
very nice.
I want to say I finished like 50th in the finals last year, something like that. It started well because Lamar, the Thursday night Christmas Day game. I had Lamar and I was off to, and I had like Lamar likely, and I was off to a good start. A couple other pieces on Saturday, but just didn't get the running backs to come through on Sunday.
Gotcha.
But it was definitely a fun sweat, and so it was very profitable for me. Only entering 22 last year.
Oh, really?
I had other cashes as well.
Yes.
This year so far, I've only done 5 so far.
Okay. What's the plan? What's the outlook? How many do you plan on getting in? Do you plan on doing about the same? What's the number?
Yeah, I'll probably do a little bit more than I did last year. Had it been the same format, I probably would have done even more. But it is like, look, it's fun, but it's not for the faint of heart.
I was going to say it is a sweaty tournament. A lot of variance, kind of like you said with the running backs. We kind of talked a little bit about the tournament on Tuesday. Kind of introduced it onto the stream. Tell us what that major difference is between last year and this year that you mentioned, and how does that have its pros and cons while we go ahead and get reared up to get into one here.
So last year, it was not until about week 12, week 11, week 12, where you had a 50-50 week.
Gotcha.
Where 50% of lineups went through. And then there were only a couple of those. Even into the playoffs, like I think one or two of the playoff weeks were like 60%. Yeah, and the other thing is, even when it was 50%, it was out of 8, out of 10, out of 12, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I just think I can build a lineup saying I'm going to finish in the top half in a particular week of 10 teams, of 12 teams, but head to head, I could have a really good lineup. Yeah, you just have a better one, and so just you get knocked out. So I think it was a little easier to predict. If your team stays healthy, those types of caveats, if this team is live. But I feel like every week you just have that pod luck where if you have good pod luck, you're going through. If you have bad pod luck, and look, sometimes it can be into your favor. Like you don't have a tight end this week because you have a guy on bye and a guy injured, but it doesn't matter because the other team got nothing from their tight end and you were just able to steamroll.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that can go both ways. I mean, and obviously, you don't have to wait till, like regular traditional, you're not getting that kind of variance until week 14, when you start getting into the playoffs. So it is a lot more interesting. And honestly, that's a big reason why I played it this year, was because I do think this has a little bit more of a 50-50 shot. Like you mentioned, the first week is 6-12, you get out of your first pod, and then pretty much it's a heads up. I mean, the rest of the weeks you're playing against basically one team, and like you said, and I don't know how many I'll get into this. And again, I'm not sure if I'll get more than maybe 50 to 100 because I do think it'd be fun. I do think the price point's fair. $200K up top is a lot of money, and if you just happen to get one entry to run a little hot, and get you to, I think they said if you get to like week 13 or 14, you're making like $20K. which obviously that would be an astonishing feat as it is in its own.
Mhm.
But that's really good. It's going to be a fun sweat. JT Best Ball, glad you're catching in. Hey, I saw your streams too, man. Have been trying to check you out. Do definitely want to possibly have you on at some time, obviously, as well. CBK says, good morning, good morning. Bindles is up in the chat. Good to see you guys. Let's go ahead and jump in an elim. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, no, sounds good.
So I'm going to start with a 30 because I know they're typically harder to fill, but I would like a little bit more time to talk through things.
Sure.
Strategy talk in there. So I'm going to count it down. 3, 2, 1. We're jumping into 30 seconds. Please don't give me the error location. Oh, wow. The last 2 streams, I have not gotten the error location. We are waiting on 10. It just went to 9. I'm going to give it another second or two. So, Steve, back to last year. I know the 4th place finish, obviously, heck of a job, man. I was in that finals with you. Heck of a job. Nice score. The other, I know Superflex was one. What were the other I know you had 13 teams, and you don't have to list them all off. What was your top 6 finishes, and what were those contests?
So yeah, it was interesting because 13 teams on Underdog. One was the Eliminator. I think I had 2 in pre-best ball, 1 in the big board, okay. 1 in the little board. I had 3 in the Superflex, 2 in the Superflex Puppy, 1 in the Superflex Pomeranian, and then the rest were in the various contests in the main.
Gotcha.
Didn't have any BBMs get through.
Okay.
Did have a puppy. Did have what they just released today, the Greyhound, and that was another one of my ones because I believe I had Lamar in that also, where I started so well, and because it's a very small finals, it's only it's only like 53 person final. And I think I finished like 17th or something like that. But I want to say I had like James Conner in that, and he had like 2 carries in week 17 last year, and some other running back who failed. But
I was in the same boat, and I had 7 teams make the finals in the various contests. But yeah, James Conner was one that I also had. That kind of Chuba was another one that got hurt there at the end of the season that really killed me. But yeah, man, there was a few injuries that really hurt last year. Have you done the Greyhound, which you mentioned? If anybody watching the stream, which I'm sure it's a bunch of sickos watching the stream, but if you have not seen it, it is a $35 single entry, 30K up top, and like you mentioned, I think it's a 54-person final. Really cool structure. I think only 6,300 or so odd people in it. Pretty cool thing. Single entry. So have you done yours yet? What's the plan on that?
I've not done mine yet. I
haven't either.
I'll probably do it. I don't think it's going to fill say as quickly as the Hound Dog did last week. But yeah, there's only 6,000. So you only need 6,000 some people to enter it to fill it.
Exactly.
So, I'll probably do it maybe over the weekend or something like that. But yeah, it's fast only. So which is interesting. But yeah, so that was another one of my better finals. And then I had like a Hound Dog, one of the Hound Dogs, one of the 2 Pomeranians. Yeah, just a mix of different things.
Sure.
Last year, so yeah, it was, and that is why I had some like the Puppy and the Superflex Puppy, and even the big board that had like those 1 of 10s getting you through.
Yeah,
most of my finals were the ones that were like 1 of 6, 1 of 5. In the playoffs, and that helps. I mean, there's no question about that. That's why I love the things like the Hound Dog, the Pug, and the Greyhound.
Yeah, the Pug. Obviously, I've still got. Have you maxed the Pug already? Do you have it? Okay. So I was saving I've been watching the fill rate on that guy because I've saving my last bullet. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I'm going to let it get to like 95, 98% and then just jump into it. Hopefully, Aaron Rodgers signing news today is obviously going to make things a lot more interesting. AR Anthony Richardson with the shoulder, Danny Jones, that's going to be interesting to see. So a lot of that, I try to, especially something like that is taking as long as it is to fill because it's going really slow from what we have thought it would have gone. Yeah, I'm kind of just keeping that one in the back chamber. Just going to fire that off closer to when it fills. But the Superflex, the Puppy Superflex is out. I know you mentioned you had a finals in that last year. So how many have you done there? What's the number on that, and what's your outlook on that tournament?
Yeah, let's see. I literally just did one on 2 Team stream right before I jumped on here. But so I think I also have a bunch of slows on that going because I wanted to get a lot out early and get through the early rounds.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure I can gain the quarterbacks and get what value out there. So I probably, between what I've done, which is probably in the high 20s, and what I have going slow, I've probably entered in 60.
Okay.
But
so definitely probably looking to max that one.
I don't know if I'll max it, but I'll probably get to like 100.
Okay.
I did.
I mean, are
about
you a big maxer, or do you? So what's your outlook on? Do you try to max any? Do you just try to get good volume, or you just like get to a point where you're drafting and you're like, you know what? I feel like I can't get any more different, variations, combos. We're still very early in the drafting cycle. So.
Yeah. So last year, between both pre-draft and Superflex regular, I had a little over 700 total underdog entries.
Gotcha.
But I didn't max anything that was more than like a 50 max. Like I think I maxed like the 50 max Superflex Pomeranian and like one other thing.
Right.
But this year, for instance, I did max like the big board and a lot of the 250 max little boards. So for the regular puppy, I think I had like 107 entries.
Gotcha.
I'll probably, like I said, be similar on the Superflex. I do want to do more. It does seem like they're going to do more Superflex this year. This year's Superflex puppy is about a little over 4 times bigger than last year's, and it's actually filling at a good rate. It's filling roughly 3% a day, which that's about a month to fill a puppy. Which the regular puppy took a month, and sure, some of that was schedule release and all that, but it's not far off. I mean, there's a lot of entries in it right now, and so I don't know, and I haven't even decided if I'll max like BBM or not, just because that is, there's so many other good tournaments and
and that, I think I maxed BBM I think I did BBM 3. I maxed it. And I just really focused on it alone. And obviously, if you're maxing it, you understand that it's a total lotto. It's a total, it's one of the worst contests you can actually enter. But, if you're maxing it, you're just obviously hoping for a 1%er and run hot. I didn't do well. I don't even know how many. I think I might have advanced maybe like 15 to 20 team stops. And I didn't even have any go out into the semis. So it was a brutal run out for me. And, after that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to try to get as much volume in. Well, at that time, too, there was not just a ton of contests being rolled out. They were very more cautious to wait on contests to get closer to fill. They weren't putting out a lot. So, like, last year was my biggest one where I was like, you know what? I just want to get a bunch of volume, kind of like you're doing. Like, I just want to get a bunch of early volume in, get, 50 to 75 of each of the puppies. And then, I might do like 50 or 60 BBMs. Like, I don't really plan on doing a ton. I haven't really been drafted any. Most of what I've done has been on stream. It's been either myself or bringing on, people to do BBMs. But that's kind of the way I've been going about it. And honestly, I had a much better year last year, had a way better advance rate. And I just felt like it was more because you get to a point, like I said, where you kind of get draft lock. You kind of start drafting the same players over and over again. And you're like, you get in these time boxes where, I do want to be a lot more intentional this year with my player exposures. I do want to, really hammer out what I want at the time in these time boxes. And whereas like a contest like BBM, I would be wanting to be more smooth, flat, kind of play the news cycles as it come and play the ADP values. But I'm not really doing that in these time boxes. Is that kind of your similar approach, or how do you feel about being exposure-wise, being more intentional, or on time boxes, or are you just playing one way on all of them?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the way I try and look at it are guys who I don't think are going to change too much.
Sure.
I'm going to play that way the entire time. Or if I think they're great value now, even if I feel like they're going to rise or whatever. Then, I'll just keep hammering it. Like right now, the bit is we have a ton of Cam Scatterbo, and that's because right now he's still going late 90s, early 100s. And where, my bet is we get all this training camp news, preseason news. By the time you get to mid-August, he could be going, right after like Caleb and Junkins,
Yeah, absolutely. And two, I want to get with the chat and just realize Pepper said, just realize I've been subconsciously trying to replicate my moneymaker build from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's I guess I don't know if I wouldn't say I'm not going to say it's totally bad process as long as you're like still drafting along the same lines, but trying to use exactly what you used last year, I think that might be a little ill practice. Steve, thoughts?
I mean, look, if they're guys who are in similar spots, then go for it. Last year, the guy who helped win me $50K was Baker Mayfield, and new offense coordinator. But if anything, the rest of the offense got better. Last year, Godwin missed over half the year. Evans missed 3.5 games. Otten missed 3 games. McMillan missed 3 games. Now they even add Mbuka to that. So he's got more weapons than he's ever had. So Absolutely. I'm still drafting a ton of them.
That's good call, and I like that approach too. CBK says, Steve Sean, are you more likely to go 3 QB in tourneys that are 1-5, 1-4 advance in the playoffs, or are you pretty much always 3 quarterback? So that's a funny and a good topic. 2 quarterback versus 3 quarterback. I've seen a lot of people posting their their charts lately of what they're doing: 3 quarterback, 2 quarterback. Seen some very, very heavy 3 quarterback stances. I've also seen a lot of smooth, like want to get a little bit down the board. And so what's your take on the quarterback, 2 or 3? Do you lean one way? Do you if you pick an elite, do you feel like you're better to stop off at 2? What's kind of your thinking on that?
So I'm definitely more 3 quarterback across the build. I would guess, I didn't like map it out last year, but I would have guessed I was 75% 3 quarterback last year. And I'll probably be heavy that way as well. I mean, yes, sometimes if I'm taking elite, I do it, but also I remember teams last year I had like Lamar and Dak or Lamar and Trevor Lawrence, thinking, boy, I got 2 really good quarterbacks here. And then come week 14, Lamar's on bye and that other quarterback's injured, and that team didn't make it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then, some Jaden Daniels was another one, late bye, had a great year, got everything I wanted out of Jaden Daniels, but you had him in like Lawrence or something.
I did it. He was on most of my finals teams. He was really one of the biggest reasons that I had as good a year as I did. I got to give it all to him, which I'm an LSU fan, so there was a little bit of bias, but I knew what he brought to the table, knew with the rushing upside. But yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
So and even so, I do think like one of the advantages of 3 quarterback, and I think this is what CBK's gained at, is in the playoffs, in these, especially the 1 of 10s or the 1 of 12, 1 of 16. Is having 3 different options could help rise you to the top. And what he's saying here is in the 1 of 4s, 1 of 5s, 1 of 4s, does it matter as much? Probably not as much. But end of the day, I think it's still helping you get through to the playoffs, because the other thing we need to keep in mind, what they talk about, whether it's the elites that we know all year or the guys who rise, like Baker last year, like Daniels last year, Burrow, from mid-tier to elite tier, not many points separated those top quarterbacks. So only 2 of us are making it through. So if you take, if you take Lamar and I take Allen, well, we need to dodge these other teams who are combining quarterbacks. And sometimes maybe that's me stealing Baker. So, there's not a Baker team that's rising above me and, bouncing, Lamar and Baker or whatever the case may be. So there's that kind of advantage. And then, in the playoffs, I mean, look at it. It was the finals, but Lamar came out with a 29-point game and he was like quarterback 7.
Yeah, no, right. That was wild.
And it was guys like Baker who were above him, guys like Burrow, obviously Jaden.
Right. You never know. You never know who's going to go off in that week. And that's what I think, makes this obviously so fun. So yeah, that's a great point. And I understand, I will say I've done quite a few 3 quarters. I will say though, I am a stick whenever I get like an elite, which I try not to. I am more 3 quarterback builds because typically I don't take, I'm not taking a lot of Lamar. I'm taking a lot of Jaden when I grab Terry and it falls to me because he's going like 40, 45. But really, I'm not grabbing just a lot of elite quarterbacks. So most of the time, I'm grabbing the Bakers. I'm grabbing the Bo Nix. I'm grabbing the Caleb Williams. I'm getting those guys and then pairing them up with, a good second quarterback. And then I'm taking a lot of Bryce Young, Tyler Shuck, even at the very end. I've taken a lot of just going to say it, which other than Bryce, but I was thinking of another one. But anyway, I have been doing that a lot too, and probably more so than the QQ quarterbacks. Let's see, we got a couple of other ones. That was what I was getting to the Scatabo, and CBK said that he went 134 on DK.
DK is just wild.
Yesterday on Coach Speak Index, and we're waiting on one for this elim. Somebody jump in this thing. We got a 30-second elim. We're waiting on one. Coach Speak Index put out a tweet and said, you know, it was a meme, and it said, "Do you want to see Cam Scatabo's ADP rise?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what's being said? We filled it." But it was like, what's going on? And then he kind of teased it, and then he said, I might put this in an article, and I still have yet to see what that was. But I'm very interested to see, because there's been a lot of hype going around Scatabo here lately. They've been showing a lot of him and Jackson Dart together, and them getting that Rappaport together. So very, very interested in knowing what that was. A lot of them are King Henry. Yep, agree. Drew, I'm in there with y'all. Hey, appreciate you, man. Fun to sweat. It will be. This is going to be a real fun one. Only drafted 2 limbs. Had injured Puka. Yeah, that injured Puka was tough. The FFB Wizard is in here with us. I was 92% 3-quarterback last year on BBM. FFB Wizard was one of the top 3 in advance rates on BBM. So I think
it definitely helps you advance. I think there's no question on that. Yeah,
advance rate absolutely has to help there. They're going back and forth to each other on the chat. Cody from Off the Schneid, what's up, man? Glad to see you in here. Cody asked if he was in the. Did he get in this limb? And we're rolling. So he is. He is the first hole here. We are the 4. We've got FFB Wizard in here. We've got Jalapeno, Jenkins. We got Omega. We got CBK. We've got the whole. All the boys are in. So
nice.
Where are you going right now? I'm sure it's going to probably be Saquon if he lasts here. But other than that, where are you looking, Steve? You looking? Are you running back heavy early?
I'm very much running back heavy early. I did some research on this, and if you look at it's not just like the Pukas or the guys who got injured, but if you look at the receivers and the running backs who scored the most points last year, so these were the best players last year. You want to go Gibbs here?
I'm totally fine going Gibbs.
Yeah,
that is more than fine with me. But go ahead.
If you take the top 12 receivers, top 12 running backs, and I just wanted to look through the first 3 weeks, because that's when you get into the money.
Sure.
And of those, only this was weeks ago that I did it, 2 or 3 receivers actually scored just 10 points all 3 weeks.
Wow.
And because Jamar Chase wasn't one of them. Bengals started off slow, that kind of stuff. Right. Justin Jefferson only, I think, had 2 weeks. Or no, actually, I think he was one of the 3. Of the running backs, I want to say it was 8 of 12. And also some of those top 12 ended up being backs who you never would have expected, because it was like Chase Brown, Bucky, so you knew those guys were late plays all along. So I just think there's just so much more certainty week to week in running back scoring. I mean, and running backs are going to score more points in general. Like,
absolutely. Yep. No, and that's again, for this type of format, and again, it is half PPR. So you need those touches. You need those short touches. You need those goal line, touchdowns, where the receivers, like you said, like they might just not get it in week 1. And this being pretty much a weekly tournament, you really need those guys that are definitely going to put points on, on the scoreboard for one, but also put up the fantasy points. So I totally understand that. Totally get that point, and it's very important, obviously, that you do get that. So yeah, great point. And I did not know that stat about the wide receivers. So that's, and again, that's just kind of something that you might run into, week to week, they're not going to put up the points that you need. So we are coming up here. Let's see here. We're at a wide receiver run, but we got some running backs. Who are you generally looking at? I know a lot of the guys in this draft are in the chat. So,
I would.
If you don't want to give it away right off the bat, I'm totally fine with that.
I would probably go, if he gets to us, Bucky.
Okay.
And start out running back.
Don't mind it.
Two different buys, and I know. Look,
and then of course Bucky goes right there.
I mean, I'm okay with London.
Okay.
I think he's one of the better, more consistent receivers.
I agree.
And, his target share was incredible. I think that continues.
Yep.
I think Penix was throwing the ball down the field more than an injured Kirk last year.
Right.
And I just think, going into Penix's second year in this offense, Zach Robinson last year, just a lot of upside there. So I think London is one of the safer receivers. And I think him and T. Higgins, there's a tier break after them. So I don't mind taking one there.
No, that's a good point. And yeah, I mean, if he can even closely replicate, the last 3 weeks of the season that he had with Penix,
yeah,
I mean, to start the season, and again, so with that being said, are you utilizing like week one? Are you trying to build around week one? Are you trying to build between the first 3 weeks? Like, what's the strat? Are you looking into that any? Is that any kind of a play for you, or how?
I do think there's value. Probably, honestly, less in week one and more week 2 and week 3, because those are the ones where
you want to
get mono and mono.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think if you're really doing a lot of them, you should be very focused on that. I agree. And also, regardless of the week, I think you don't want to overextend buys. Like, week 5, like, do we want like a ton of like Steelers and Bears and stuff like that? Because if we're lucky enough to get this team through to week 5, we don't want to be dead then.
Right. No, that's a good point. So we are on the clock. Got Brown here, Higgins, McBride.
I'm not worried about Moss and these guys. I think they run it back with Chase Brown, and sure, Moss or Taj or whoever it is get some usage, but I think
honestly, I feel they're very comfortable with Chase Brown. I don't think that P. Ryan Moss really didn't scare me last year. I know he got the injury. Don't really think we have anything to worry about that. Really like that pick. Got a couple picks passed, but like you said, starting out running back, getting those early touches here, I think is definitely detrimental, especially in this format. So yeah, that's exactly what I was meaning. Some chat in here. Thank God, 6-12. Genty going to have an Adrian Peterson season. So that's a cool one. And then Cody says, "Is that a fresh fade, Steve? Looking clean." So what's your take on Genty? I know you're obviously really high on Scattaboo, however we want to call it. What's your take on Genty? Have you drafted a lot? Do you think he's overpriced? What's your take?
Yeah, so I've been bullish. I do think he is. The term gets thrown around, but he's fairly generational. I agree. I think if you look in the last 8 drafts, like it's Saquon and McCaffrey and Bijan are the backs that we're really comparing him to, and just the ability to take on 25 carries, to catch the ball, just do everything. And the Raiders, look, their offense was terrible last year, but they've also literally changed everything. New coach, new offense coordinator. Chip Kelly's had one of the highest rush rates. We know Pete Carroll loves to run the football.
Absolutely.
I think Geno makes his offense more efficient, so there's just going to be more scoring opportunities. Bowers in his second year, Jack Besh added to the passing attack. Offensive line is at least above average, if not good.
Right.
So I just think they're going to be good. They're going to be good enough. And
I thought it was interesting, with the Chip Kelly offense. I forgot who posted it, but I think his last 3 years or so in the NFL, he was number one in like number of plays, like the rate was the speed. It was there. Like they want to get in plays. That was the way he was at Oregon too. Like he wants to get as many offensive plays that he can get. And like you said, his rush rate, I think, was top 4, top 5 for every year that he was in the league.
And every year in the NFL. So
yeah, I mean, that and the whole point of everything you just said, I think the offense is going to be way better. Pete Carroll obviously loves to establish it. Like, yeah, these are all huge reasons why when he was going 11, 12, I was pulling him up to 7 or 8. Like, where are you at now? And because I had a feeling this is where he was going to end up landing around. So yeah, totally love that. We are coming back up on the clock here. What are you thinking? What are you looking at? What is your take on the tight ends too? While we wait for our pick, are you taking 2? Are you taking 3? Do you have a preference? Are you wanting to get elite and stop at 2, or are you just wanting to take like 2 or 3 mids and take a late? I'll let you pick first.
Let's go. I'm okay going Kittle here. This is a weird receiver area. where
It
you have
is.
either young guys who aren't fully established. And this is the thing, like I love, T-Mac, but rookies start slow, and
Right. Yeah.
particularly rookie receivers.
Yep.
And so I do worry about that. And
Okay.
then you have like low volume, like Devonta Smith, not the highest volume, stuff like that. So
Yeah, and to the point, I think I talked about this with Nick on Tuesday. Like Kittle, I think even at getting him where he's going and being, the third tight end off the board here in this tournament, especially, I got a feeling like he's going to come out and as soon as week 1 and be one of the top target earners on the team for what they're looking to come into the season with. Ayuk's not going to be there. Debo's gone. They've got Jawan Jennings. Rizzy P, has an injury right now that he's dealing with. Demarcus Robinson might be suspended for 3 games. He could easily be the number 1 target for Brock Purdy as early as week 1. And that could be for multiple weeks. So I really do I put him up a little bit more than some of these later tight ends. And that was another reason why I wanted to pinpoint that. And honestly, I really like the Kittle pick there.
Yeah. So Kittle's the one elite tight end I really like in this format. Just price considered.
Now, what are you thinking?
Here, I just knocked Devonta Smith a little bit, but I feel a little better about him than some of these other guys, to be honest.
Devonta. I'm completely fine with Devonta. That's probably who I would start with, to be flat out honest.
Yeah.
And I want to get your take on Travis Hunter after this, because obviously I know you're a big rookie prospect guy. I know you've been doing that for a long time too, analyzing these prospects coming up. So what are your thoughts on Travis Hunter? I know there's both sides of the fence here. There's a lot of people who are, got good prices on him pre-draft. Like me, I really took a lot pre-draft, and I was like, okay, well, I'm glad to have him at the 110s, 100s. Not taking him now. What are your thoughts? Are you drafting him? What do you think his outlook is? What's your thoughts?
So I'm still taking him for the sheer reason that I do think he's the highest upside receiver in this draft. I think if he was in last year's draft, he would have been fighting Odunze to be wide receiver 3. Good point. Going right behind, Harrison and Neighbors. And right. I just think, I think there's a couple of things. One, it's the Liam Cohen effect. Look at last year when Evans and Godwin, I think both finished top 10 in targets per game. Obviously, they both missed a lot of games.
Yeah.
But a lot of that, they were together,
Sure.
And just incredibly efficient, high volume offense. I think it's going to be very condensed between these two. I mean, De'Ami Brown, Strange will get some as well, but I just think Hunter is going to go to a situation where in college, he was primarily a DB. Yeah. He did all the defensive back meetings, all that kind of stuff. I think it's reverse. I think they made this massive investment in Trevor Lawrence. I know that was a different regime, but I think they're believers. And I think this is also by far the best offense system Trevor Lawrence has been a part of.
That was going to be my next question. Are you a Trevor Lawrence believer? I mean, I know he's still young. At times he has not looked great. I know he dealt with some injuries last year. Are you a big believer that thinking that Trevor Lawrence, because last year it was Mac Jones that propped up BTJ and got pretty much the most out of him. And so what are your thoughts on Trevor? Are you a believer that he can, come out and sustain both? Let's make a pick quick and then we'll talk about that.
I know I'm more down on rookies, but Hunter being there, I think, is a value.
I'm totally fine with it. Hey, you're the guest. Obviously I don't mind that. I think you're right. I think it's at 69. I mean, that's just really.
And it's just some of the other guys there, like Addison probably suspended, really Godwin coming back from an injury,
Not sure about the whole Chicago situation.
And that'd be another week 5 with Drake London.
Yeah,
so
good point.
Not that we won't take another week 5, but it's just I wanted to spread it out a little bit more.
No, totally fine. So back to the Lawrence conversation.
So as for Lawrence, look, he literally had the worst situation of, a lot of young quarterbacks can say they've had bad situations. He had Urban Meyer and no offensive weapons.
That's good.
No offensive line, no offensive weapons. Then Doug Peterson comes in, and I'm sorry, Doug Peterson is not the same Doug Peterson that led the Eagles to the Super Bowl.
You're right.
Like you look at their, just the way that they ran their offense, like it was just not efficient. It was not well done. Like you just saw dumb things like last year at the end of the year. Brenton Strange was dominating the first half, has a fumble, and then they bench him the rest of the game. And this is when Evan Ingram's out. And they just said, I don't know who their third tight end was, but they said, we'll just run with that guy. And it's like
Luke Farrell or something.
Yeah, we had
the
second round young tight end we're trying to develop, and because he fumbles once, you're going to sit him the rest of the game. It was just dumb. And
I agree.
I will say Lawrence, I can't remember how many games he ended up like really playing. He had that terrible concussion. He got knocked out early 2 games.
I think he only played 8 or 9, maybe.
I think 9.
Tops.
And I think he had 4 20-point games. Okay. So it's not like he wasn't efficient or effective. He just didn't have any like 30-point games.
Right. Okay, so we're on the clock here. We do have a 0-2-3-1 start here. What are you thinking? Anything you want to look at?
Let's go positional. Let's go receiver again. I think Shakir or Dunze makes sense. Shakir, I think, is really good in this format because he doesn't.
I was going to say, I think he gives us a little boost because we already know he's going to be for sure probably either 1 or 2 target for Josh Allen right out of the gate. Palmer, I don't really expect him to come in and just command a lot of targets, seeing as how he has not really been one of those kind of earners. And they did pay Shakir. Like, they paid him a good amount of money. I do think that, a lot of people have talked about the Dalton Kincaid. Are you drafting Dalton Kincaid? I noticed you got a little. Is that somebody? How do you feel? And before we do that, Meg, want to come in, shout us out? Thanks, Meg. Appreciate it. Need all the Scataboo. Of course, we need all the Scataboo.
I mean, we actually do at this point because we're behind on running back, I think. But no, I think Scataboo might be gone. Running backs are really gone quick in this room.
Yeah, they have. They typically
but I think we can catch up.
No, he's still there.
Okay, good. I think we can catch up.
Yeah.
But no, with what I will say about the Bills, and actually, Cody and we've talked about this before, is the Bills last year, Kincaid was like a 4th, 5th round pick.
Right.
You had Keon Coleman like the 7th round, Curtis Samuel in the 9th. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you still there?
Sorry,
yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Curtis Samuel in the 9th, and then Shakir like in the 9th, 10th. And this year, all those guys are going much later. Shakir's the first one, and he's going in like the 7th. And then, Kincaid and Coleman are kind of like in the 9th, 10th range, and then Palmer much later. So I think for QB1, and granted, he wasn't QB1 just because of his passing ability, but it's not like he was a bad passer like Josh Allen. And we've seen Josh Allen actually throw more touchdowns in the past. So what if Josh Allen throws 35 touchdowns again, like he used to?
Yeah.
Like these guys are all going to be at a value. And so I want pieces of them, particularly when I have Allen, but even when I don't, like this is going to be a top 3, top 5 scoring offense.
Sure.
Give me pieces, especially at, I think, a value.
Yeah, and I will say I'm very guilty of only drafting them mainly whenever I've got Allen. But we are on the clock here. We do have a couple running backs. Scataboo is there, but I think we possibly
let's go Mason.
You got Mason. I like Mason because I think obviously from what we've been told is that he could easily be the goal line back. Which, if he's going to get, maybe 8 to 10 carries a game and get those goal line looks, then that's early points right there. And that's obviously what you want in a half point. So, yeah, big fan of Mason. I was lucky enough to get a ton, and I'm sure you probably did too, in pre-draft because he was going in the 200s. I think my average before the draft was before the trade, I should say, was like 198. So I was very happy to get a lot of him early on, which I was really drafting him for San Francisco, thinking that he would be the 2. And then he got traded there, and I was like, oh, wow, like that's even better. Like we know he's going to get on the field and not just be a contingent back. So
prior to that trade, I was basically splitting Garendo and Mason. So I had like 5-6% of each before the trade. and then started just chasing them both up the board because now I like them even better.
Right.
And I don't mind the price. It's not like the price is that prohibitive to me.
No, it's really not. No, and I've been taking a lot of Garindo a lot, now since, because that was really my main play on that was I want to get you back to CMC, which I do want to get your thoughts on here in a moment, as that's always a hot topic. But before that, let's go ahead and we'll make this pick. We are still quarterbackless. We've got Jameer, Chase Brown, Jordan Mason at running back, Drake London, Devonta Smith, Travis Hunter, Khalil Shakir at wide receiver. And then our lone elite tight end there, George Kittle, is where we're at right now. 0-3-4-1. We are about to be on the clock after RB1. I see Cody went double tap on the quarterbacks there. What are you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, there's two quarterbacks I like there, but I do think Scatterboo would represent a fourth potential good back for us.
I like it. I like it.
So I think we go Scatterboo, and then probably our next couple picks
try to take quarterback.
Yeah.
Hey, you're never going to hear me say no on Cam Scatterboo. And I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah. Well, it's like a value like this. Also 4 different buys for our 4 running backs.
Yeah. I really like that.
We're always going to have 3 available, and potentially in our flex as well, which is ideal. It's the best way to get the most points.
You're right.
So yeah, I like it, and we could take an unstacked Fields. Purdy would have made sense, obviously, with Kittle, but stacking isn't as important with this. And
that was another thing I wanted to bring up. Skinnies, I think, are fine, right? I think it's okay if you just, like a Brock and a Kittle would be fine.
Yeah.
I think where you get yourself in trouble, which, don't get me wrong, this is like DFS, but, and I have seen, the Dolphins fan that won the Millie in week 1 where the Dolphins had the double and they went off. You can have that. It can happen. But if you waste that pick on that other wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for the team, or the tight end, you want to double up, that can really hurt you too. If the offense just totally goes out and throws a dud in week 1, you're pretty much dead, right? So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, kind of the same. I want consistent, ideally more consistent scoring quarterbacks, and I would even take that even unstacked and get a backstack later, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like somebody, he just went a little bit ago, but Dak Prescott, if we believe he's healthy, he generally is a pretty consistent scoring quarterback, and I'd be fine then finding Ferguson later, that kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, it's important, but it's not the be all end all.
No, that's true. And I was going to say, JT Bestball says, what if Cohen and Canals are the products of Baker and he could be? I mean, we saw, Bryce Young start to come along at the end of last year with Canales, but Parker is in the 2-hole. He wants us to give him a look here in a minute. We will do that, I promise, after we get off the clock here. We do got Drake May down here. I know he'll probably go pretty quick if we don't grab him.
I like going Drake May because, again, this is a guy who's going to have such a high floor.
Right.
He had 400 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns. So essentially that's 50 rushing points last year. He easily could double that this year. He could easily have 100 rushing points, if not more. And remember, he didn't start the first 5 weeks, and then
that's right. And then
week 18 he started, but he played 2 snaps, and then Joe Milton. He did the Josh Allen start week 18.
Right. Yeah.
Just to get started in the book. So he only started 12 games, and one of those he did leave early due to the concussion. But even if you count that, he was very productive on a point game, actual start basis.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, we were already kind of getting boxed out at quarterback, which happens often in this contest. Like you said, they start going off quick. We saw the big run there, which Cody was probably one of the ones who kind of started that. Well, it was Omega, and yeah. So Cody goes 3 triple quarterback.
I was thinking taking Lawrence coming back. So yeah,
I think he knew we were probably going to take that, and that's probably why he did that. Thanks, Cody. But anyway, so Meg says, congrats on success on getting Scatterboot. Yep, absolutely. Emo Cowboy was in the chat. What's up, man? What's going on? Lots of sharps looking teams in this lobby. Yeah, Parker, I hadn't forgot about you. Let us make this pick. And we'll definitely run you down and see what you're looking like in the 2 I think you just picked. And we'll look at your team here in just a second. We do have some quarterbacks on the board, not probably our favorite or favorable ones.
Do you
what do you want to do here?
Push it one more time and take Kyle Williams for a stack partner?
We could. Yeah, we could.
That's also a different buy for our receivers. And
sure. Yeah, that's a good point. What are you thinking here? Who are you liking?
I'd go Kyle Williams.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you wanted to push him.
Or you're talking about quarterback. I think push quarterback to get Kyle Williams.
Good point. Good point. Don't mind that. Kyle Williams has been getting a lot of hype. Obviously, I know Cody off the Schneids is the Kyle Williams fan club. I've seen him post it millions of times. He says that nobody can mention anybody else with Kyle Williams, so I'll give him his credit and his due on that one. Yeah, he said unique. No, you're right. You're right. Unique quarterbacks, they go off quick. But yeah, I think that was a good spot. Let's go to let's look at Peaches Arbs here. Pretty sure that's him in the 2L, right? That is. Yep, that's him. Okay. I want to look at your team real quick, man. Well, I might as well do it on the board because it might not let me do it. Bijan, Josh Allen, took Josh Allen at the 23. Rasheed Rice, Jameson Williams, which the Amon stuff today was very interesting too. Went in and had the surgery on his knee that we didn't get told about. That was really interesting.
So crazy.
So J-Mo, James Conner, Deebo Samuel, Pacheco. Pacheco's been a riser. Ayuk, Jalen Warren, Keon Coleman, Jaden Higgins. I think that's okay. Which you got Josh Allen. So I was going to say, might get boxed out a little bit at quarterback, but to be honest, I think that's really fair. You took Bijan, then you took Connor. You got some nice floor there with Rasheed, J-Mo. Deebo, I think, is probably set to have a better year, obviously. Ayuk is probably not one that I'm looking at in this contest because right now reports are that he's not going to return to like October. And he's probably one that I'm not playing in this tournament just for that. I'm drafting him in like traditional when he gets to like pass 100, pick 100 because he's been getting there a lot lately. I usually try to, target him there if he's my wide receiver 5, 6, 7, something like that. So I do think there's a lot of risk with Ayuk, but everybody else I think is pretty good, man.
Yeah, and I would kind of say, I was hoping maybe Penix would come back, but it did not happen.
No, CBK is a big Penix truther, so.
I could go Bryce Young.
Obviously.
Oh wait, it's the same buy. Do you want to go Gino?
I think if we get to week, I think Gino. Yeah. I was going to say if we get to week 14, I don't think, but I would say we take Gino just for the simple fact if for whatever reason Bryce does come back. I wouldn't mind a double tap because I feel like we've got a good solid start everywhere else. But I think we'll take Gino for the bye week right here, and plus, Gino I think will give us a little bit. I don't know. I don't really know how Bryce is going to start the year. Hopefully he starts clicking, just like he ended last year. Had a really good down the stretch at the end of last year. But that being said, I think that kind of leaves us flexible on taking another late quarterback that we won't mix bye weeks as well, just in case they do take Bryce here. CBK, huge Penix guy. Said the 12 holes going 0 elim, 0 quarterback on the elim.
I did not say that.
Yeah, he's Cody. That is copyright rules, so I can take my legal team to stand there. Okay, don't get me. Let me go, man. That's why I gave it to you. That's why I gave you the props. Yeah, don't bring the hounds out yet. It looks like we could have a chance to get Bryce Young here, which I'm totally fine doing, unless you like somebody else that you would much rather take here.
Yeah, obviously it'd be interesting to get the stack with Gino with Jack Besh, but the tough thing is the late quarterbacks are Stafford and Darnold, and they also have week 8 buys. So it's like either way, we're getting a double bet. We're kind of stacking a buy, and I'd rather do 14 versus 8, just because, like you said, if we get to week 14,
exactly. So you want to take Bryce? Is that what you're telling me?
Let's take Bryce. Yeah.
That pretty much solidifies our quarterback room. I feel a lot more comfortable with that, knowing that we've got a lot of good early wide receiver play already. And obviously Jack Besh could, which I'm sure he probably won't make it back 14 picks, 15 picks. but I've seen crazier things happen in some rooms. So, but yeah, like I just felt like getting that third quarterback and not having to stress that and be worried about that later on, like you mentioned with Darnold and Stafford already having a week 8 bye. That's giving us another earlier bye week that we would hit earlier in this contest. I think probably was a good move.
Yeah, and the way I look at it also, like, sure, Gino's going to a new team, but it's with Pete Carroll again. So I don't know if there's going to be as much, because I do think, rookies, because Cam Ward was still been there, though he's off the board.
Right.
But, rookies start slow. And I think Gino and Bryce Young, if Bryce Young does what he did at the end of last year, then boy, that could be real fun.
And they went out, got him a true wide receiver 1 in Tet.
Yeah.
I really like the makeup of the Panthers. They're obviously, anybody who knows me knows that I'm huge on the Panthers already this year. They're probably, one of my highest owned stacks. Probably they are. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That team across the board is my highest, especially for the value that you're getting. Bryce Young was going in the 160s, 170s. He still is for a lot of the parts.
Oh, I know.
And, just seeing those, the way he was running around the goal line towards the end of last year, got those 3 or 4 touchdowns, really just like if he implements more, if he implements more of his rushing ability, he's going to be really dangerous. And that value that you're getting where he's going, he's going to really, he's going to make some noise at that ADP. We are coming up 3-4-5. 3-4-5-1 is what we got. Quarterbacks, Drake May, Geno Smith, Bryce Young. Running backs are sitting at Jameer, Chase Brown, Mason Scadaboo. Wide receivers, Drake London, Devonta Smith, Travis Hunter, Khalil, Shakur, Kyle Williams, and we got the George Kittle at tight end. Really like how we're at right now. I feel like we can backfill all the rest of the positions. I think we're really solid right now. We are coming up. We are up in 1 pick. Anybody that's catching your eye here?
So I don't mind taking like a tight end shot like Freiermuth or Strange. I know Henry would be a stack, but he's the same buy as Kittle.
Good point. Yep. And that's what I was saying. Do you feel like Strange would be a better because he's a week 8 buy? Or do you feel
let's go with it. I just think the Jaguars offense, if Cohen is doing anything, I know we finally know the Steelers quarterback, but if Cohen is doing anything close to what Tampa did, there's just such a high offensive upside there.
Sure. No, I think that's a good point. And just for the bye weeks alone, I think it made a little bit more sense to go with Strange there. I'm a huge fan of Freiermuth, don't get me wrong. But in this contest, again, being at that week 5, it's a little tough. You kind of really want to have as many players early on in the season as you can, just because you want to have the most upside to advance. So the more live bodies you have in those earlier weeks, I feel like the better off you have to be, right? I mean, I know that can go against itself too, but if you have live bodies, you have a chance.
Agreed. I totally agree. And, I think that's really key. Like, it's fine to have, maybe a quarterback and 1 or 2 other guys, but you want as many players at each position to be live, and that you're going to get the best score that way. It's just as simple as it is.
Yep. And that's really, it is as simple as that. Like, you want to just have live bodies. We are getting into an area where it's mainly running back. There are some wide receivers down here. I like our running back room. Do you generally go 5 or 6 running backs? Do you usually go 7? What's your general preference? Or are you looking at like wide receivers?
At first I thought we were going to go at least 6 running backs, but I do think we caught up a lot with getting Mason and Scadaboo.
I agree.
So I think we could go only 5. I mean, there's some guys here like Braylon Allen or Justice Hill or even Will Shipley that I'm okay with.
What are you thinking? I like Braylon. I think Braylon is easily going to be in the mix early on.
Yeah, let's go Braylon.
He doesn't hurt our buys.
It doesn't hurt our buys.
None of these guys really do. But I think Braylon has probably the most likely, other than Justice Hill, but Justice Hill is more tied to pass down work. You're probably not going to get any goal line carries, obviously, where Braylon could. I do think Braylon could get possibly a goal line carry. he gets to spell Brees Hall after Brees Hall takes it down, 50 yards, and they start on the 20, and then they bring in Braylon Allen to finish out the series or take away 2 or 3 carries, hey, he might just punch one in. So I think that's interesting. And what are your thoughts on the Jets backfield? Are you drafting a lot of Brees? Are you kind of mixing it up? What are your thoughts on the Jets?
Yeah, I'm like Brees. I draft him when he falls. I don't necessarily love his current ADP, just because honestly, in that area, I feel like he's not as good as the Chase Browns and above. And like him and Kyron are kind of in the same boat. I mean, I like Cook, but obviously there's that holdout risk and all that. I don't really believe he's going to hold out. But
are you fading because of that? Obviously we've seen that not work for running backs in Le'Veon Bell's situation, for one just major example. But I agree with you. Like, I don't think he's going to hold out. I think he's going to report. He's going to play his last year. If he starts off good, there might be contract extension talks, and they might just extend him, which, the money that he's wanting and he had a good year last year.
Like, great year,
you can't really knock the guy on trying to get more money before the season starts. But I do, obviously I feel like he's not going to, obviously lose out on a good amount of money because he is going to be stubborn. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm taking him when he falls. Yeah.
And same with Brees Hall. Like, I just feel I love the Jets offensive line. I love that, obviously the Lions coaching, tree coming in there.
Sure.
And that's actually why I do like Braylon Allen, is because I could see them implementing kind of the, Gibbs to Hall and Monty to Braylon Allen sort of approach. Obviously Justice Fields is a much different quarterback than Jared Goff, and he will steal rushing touchdowns. We saw in Pittsburgh last year. He had like Fields in 6 games had like 4 rushing touchdowns.
You're right. You are right. We are coming back up. Let's see. I'm gonna assume you probably want to look at wide receivers. I think you kind of talked us into a fight, which you're not talking me anything. I really like this running back room. I think it's stellar. I think we need to backfill a little bit on our wide receivers. And I don't know how you feel about the 2 tight ends. I know we were going to talk about that, but we can talk about it after the pick. The 2 tight end, 3 tight end preference in this tournament, especially, or specifically, I should say. What are you thinking?
So I do feel we have some young guys like Hunter and Williams. I like Darius Slayton here. Okay. I think he's an easy starter. I don't care who's throwing the ball for the Giants. It's an upgrade over what you saw last year.
Exactly. No, I'm totally fine with Slayton. He's been one of my favorite, wide receivers late if I need to catch up, or, just getting a guy that is going to be on the field week 1, especially for this contest. Exactly. And Russ actually does throw the long ball decently well.
Yeah.
If Malik Neighbors is getting the slack shade and the double coverage or whatever, Slayton is easily probably going to get a lot of one-on-one there. So definitely like that.
And the other thing,
really good at it too.
The other thing is Russ. I mean, we'll see with Jackson Dart. That can be different. But one thing, because of course Neighbors was getting double coverage and all that last year, and they would still just throw the ball to him. Daniel Jones or the Italian Stallion or Drew Lock didn't matter. But Russ last year, if you watch Pittsburgh last year, when Pickens would get double covered, that's when he would pivot off to like Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson. Didn't always work because we're talking.
And that's a veteran quarterback for you, right? Yeah, totally agree. And that's a great point where Russ will pivot and go to a second read a lot of times. So we are back on the clock here. Anybody that kind of catches your eye here?
I mean, another veteran who I think early on is going to be really good is Tyler Lockett. It's Calvin Ridley and a bunch of rookies.
I agree. I do think Tyler Lockett is going to be – obviously, I don't think he'll probably sustain throughout the year, kind of like he did in Seattle, but I do think that he's going to be a very viable target early on. I agree with that. I think it's a really nice value chaperone ad, if you will, there that he could easily start the first couple of weeks with decent amount of targets. I mean, could see that 4 to 7 range where – he's the 2. So totally don't mind that. Nick, it's good, man. Win the flex. You back in here. I see you are. Mike Robb says Steve's feeling tonight. The 2 unbuttoned on the shirt. It's that fresh cut. Oh, I know it. Looking good. Feel good. You look good. You draft good. That's just how it is. He says, Slayton Wilson, JT Best Ball says, by the way, if you guys hadn't checked out JT Best Ball on YouTube, go give him a like, go give him a sub. Just found him the other day. He found me, and he's a pretty cool dude. And I want to say he might be from Louisiana too. I saw the Thibodeau, so let me know if you are from Louisiana? Are you in Louisiana? I was born in Louisiana, so that'd be pretty cool if that was the case too. But yeah, favorite eliminator athlete picks. That's a good way to put it. I mean, and that's also, typically what you're getting.
He brings up a great point. Like I think pretty much everyone believes that for BBM and those types of tournaments, Jackson Dart is going to be there in the playoffs.
Right.
Now, whether Dart starts 3 games, 5 games, even 10 games, we don't know. But I do think Russ is there starting early. And
right, yeah.
And if you're trying to get through, particularly you have some quarterbacks with the early buys, he helps even more, I feel like. And I just think he's an interesting guy to help get you through the money.
Gotcha. No, and I think I said it. I feel like I think by week 7 or 8, if the Giants, the schedule is tough. Like they have a really tough schedule. I projected Dart to be starting by like week 7 or 8. There could be a chance where Russ wins a game or 2 in between those, which I don't see it. They have I think by week 6 or 7, they're likely maybe won a game if they're lucky. So go ahead.
My one thought. Well, let's make his pick, and then
I'm gonna say we are on the clock for the last pick. Like I said, I know we didn't talk about the tight end. I don't know if you're good sticking there or if you want to just tack on another wide receiver. What's your thoughts?
Mason Taylor is interesting. Like, to me, that's a starting wide receiver.
You got some really good coach speak again, like a day or two yesterday. I think they said that he looks like he's just ready to rock and ready to roll as a starting tight end. I don't mind taking that. I think this is
we get a nice rookie value because rookies start slow, but it's got a later buy. I do think he starts right away. Okay. And we didn't have to take him in like the 16th round like we would in a BBM. We get him in the 18th.
No, that's fair too. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh this thing. I saw JT said, he said Austin, Texas, but Grandpa I'm back from there. Yeah, I was like, I saw the Thibodeau. I was like, that's a Louisiana name. I know that. I know that name.
The thing I will say for Russ is, everyone says, oh, they're going to go to Jackson Dart to save their jobs. And I do think at some point they will. But I think the most important thing that is going to determine how long Russ plays is how is Malik Neighbors feeling, because I think they want to keep Malik Neighbors happy. And I think, honestly, I think it's kind of similar to what the Vikings did last year. They knew they were drafting quarterback in the first round, but they went out and brought in Darnold. And I think Darnold was going to start no matter what, McCarthy's injury or not, because they want to keep, Justin Jefferson happy. And I just think it's kind of similar. Like you saw Neighbors like during the Super Bowl stuff and all this, and he was like, talked about gain a veteran and stuff like that. He wasn't talking about Shador, Cam Ward, or any of this kind of stuff. He was talking about gain a veteran and wanting a better quarterback. So I get it.
No, that's completely. You want to keep your superstars happy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to keep the team happy, if you want to keep the locker room happy, you got to keep your studs. You got to keep your studs happy. I mean, that's all there is to it. Everybody keeps saying the 12 hole went nuts. I got to check that out. Omega, good. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you jumping in and drafting with us. CBK says great stuff. As on all my streams, Steve, I want to go through it, recap the team real quick, and then I got to get a grade from 0 to 10. Well, 1 to 10 because we're not giving zeros. We're never going to get zeros here. But we finished with a 3.573. Quarterback room is Drake May, Geno Smith, Bryce Young. Running back room ended with Jahmyr Gibbs, Chase Brown, Jordan Mason, Scatterboot, and Braylon Allen. Wide receivers are Drake London, Devonta Smith, Travis Hunter, Khalil Shakir, Kyle Williams, Darius Slayton, and Tyler Lockett. And then we did finish with 3 tight ends, George Kittle, Brenton Strange, and Mason Taylor. So what do you give this, Steve?
Honestly, I'm going to give it a strong like 8, maybe 8.5. I do think in Eliminator, I think having balance, not overstacking buys, and the most buys we have is week 14. And like you said, we'd be making so much money by that point. If that's what kills us, so be it.
Hey, I was going to say like 8.2, 8.3, so 8.5. We're right there in the same thought frame. Fun draft. Appreciate you. Took all my brain power on this one. Fun draft. Jalapeno was in there with us. Iron sharpened. Yeah, it was a tough room. And honestly, JT says nice team. Honestly, I felt like everything kind of fell to us. Like, as tough as the room was, I felt like we didn't really have just any majorly tough decisions to make. I mean, we started getting boxed out at quarterback. Then all of a sudden, we got Drake May, and then we were able to pull up Geno, and then we were able to get Bryce right after that on the double tap. Yeah. So I felt like that was the only spot where we were like, oh no, man, if we miss out on one more quarterback, we might be in a tough spot getting that third. But it fell to us.
No, and that's because I did worry that we went a little too wide receiver heavy early, and when we came back and I felt we were kind of forced into taking Mason Scadby, which I thought were good picks and good value. Sure. But because of that, we couldn't get Fields and we couldn't get the Purdy stack with Kittle. Yeah. And I did worry then at quarterback, but I feel we saved that as well. So to me, it all around just all came together. No room is to me exceedingly weak or even questionable. And I mean, even there at the end, like we could have taken an 8th receiver, but I don't feel like we needed it,
I agree. Like, I think our receiver room was more than fine. We got a couple of good vets in the back there. A couple of young guys that could easily, get into the action early on. We've got the early, obviously the early guys with London, Devonta Smith, Khalil Shakir. We know we're going to be there week 1 getting targets. I like the balance of the wide receiver room, and I agree. I don't feel like we really needed to tack on just some other guy that, at that we were getting to the point of the draft where it was like, if you do, it's like a round 18 in your BBM or something, it's like, so Mason Taylor was a really good pick, like you said, because typically that he goes in round 16 in BBM. We got him as our last pick here. So
I'm really happy with how that all turned out.
So I got to see this 12 hole, but somebody says, let's see. So 4-4-8-2. Darnell, Rodgers, Wilson, Jameis Winston. Okay. Cook. Well, that's a little interesting. Taking both of the Giants quarterback whenever Dart could easily be the one that starts. I don't know.
I do think I understand why he did though, because his 2 buys are early, Darnold and Rodgers, 5 and 8.
Good point.
And so he's hoping that Dart doesn't come in before like week 10.
That's a good point.
Between those two, he's got the Giants quarterback, because otherwise,
I get that. Okay. And it's there's a method to that madness I can see there. Cook, Mixon, Monty, and Pollard, very fragile at the running back spot, but all guys protected to get all the early work, except for the likes of Monty with Gibbs there. But still don't mind that. Amon-Ra went heavy with the Detroit, it looks like. Malik, Stephon, Downs, Cooper Kupp, Michael Pittman, Trey Harris, DeAndre Hopkins. Don't mind that room at all. Tucker Kraft, Ertz, a little fragile on the tight end, probably more than I'd like to be. Probably could have tacked kind of like we did. I feel like he probably could have tacked on another tight end here than getting old man Hopkins. That's my thought. But I mean, I think he did okay. Yeah.
And the thing I will say, and this is also why I think we took Braylon Allen, and we're deciding between guys like Allen and Hill and even Shipley, who could have a little standalone value, is contingent value running backs don't offer you a lot in this format because, if they're likely, with the exceptions of, Raheem Mostert or Kyren Williams a couple of years ago, even when late round running backs hit, whether it was last year, like a Bucky Irving, like I said, he did nothing the first couple of weeks.
No, you're right.
Or even other years past where like a Jerome Ford or somebody like that, like they hit due to injury essentially, and that you need that to, filter through. So
good point.
So I get only going 4 if you're getting 4 starters like that.
No, that's a good point. Who Hangs, good to see you, man. Shout out Who Hangs. Go check out his streams too. I know he's here late, but I'm sure he's probably. I know he was streaming earlier. I know he usually goes at 4:00, usually every day. Good follow, good sub over there on the YouTube channel as well. Check his streams out. Steve, I know you got another show later on this evening. Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you. Plug anything you want to plug. The show tonight, obviously. Hopefully everybody will check that out. But go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, what you'll be doing, what kind of shows you got going on this week.
Yeah, so tonight going on with Meg at 8 on the Fanspeak Network on YouTube, our sibling showdown. I believe we're going to try to get a marathon going. And then We are going to release another show, a tape show later this week or weekend. We also have been writing on our Fanspeak Substack. You can find that at fanspeakbestballsubstack.com. Meg just released her marathon rankings and a marathon article. I'm releasing an eliminator. I released my eliminator rankings last week. I'm going to release an eliminator like strategy article tomorrow. Then I'm going to do a sprint strategy article and have a few more things in the works.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds great. I've been reading some of you guys' articles. Great stuff over there. You guys are obviously a ton of sharp team over there. Everybody over at Fanspeak. I did link them below the Fanspeak, the Twitter. I linked Steve's Twitter here. So check it out. Click on those. Go check out Fanspeak. Good group over there. Always doing great content. Obviously drafting everything. And I would say the results speak for themselves. Both you and Meg had really good years last year. So, hey, the results speak for themselves. But we're going to go ahead and close it out, man. Steve, really appreciate you joining me. I felt like it was a great show. Hopefully you didn't give all of your eliminator strategy tips here. But, hey, whoever was watching got them. So that's a little bit of a
good preview
for us.
Yep.
All right, man.
Steve, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I appreciate it. Again, very, very fun. And obviously we'll have to do it again very soon.
Absolutely.
Best ball summer is just getting started. So definitely expect to see us both a lot more, obviously on both channels probably. But I'm going to let you get, man. Appreciate you joining. Appreciate everybody watching episode 17 of Extend the Drive Best Ball Live. We are out. Thank you, guys.